Hello everyone and welcome to That Bible Guy and a continuation of our series on the book of Mark. Today we've got to Mark chapter 13. What Jesus tells us today, and it's for everyone. He finishes the chapter with this being, this is for everyone. He says everyone must keep watch. Keep watch. Everyone must keep watch. So many of us have read the Bible, will know what this chapter is all about, and it's the same as Matthew 24, 25 and also Luke 21. It's one of them chapters in the Bible which is talked about so much. Everyone kind of knows the verses in these chapters about the end of the age. Now, I will summarize it to begin with, but I want to specifically do something about what Jesus tells his followers here. And I want to concentrate on that. But just to begin with, let's look a little bit at what Jesus is talking about in terms of signs of the end of the age. Verse 1, as he was leaving the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what massive stones, what magnificent buildings." Jesus then says, "Do you see all these buildings?" Replied Jesus, "Not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." And then he goes on, verse 3, to try and explain to them. They asked the question of Jesus, "No stones left on another? What's this all about? When will this happen?" And the question they ask here in Mark is, tell us, when will these things happen? And what will be the sign that they're being fulfilled? And in the other parallel passage in Matthew 24, it says, what are the signs of this? What's the signs of your coming and of the end of the age? So it's a bit more specific. Mark generalizes it a little bit, but the question is, when will this happen? And also, what's the signs of your coming and the end of the age? So it's like three questions, but two parts. What's the signs of the temple being destroyed? And then what's the signs of your coming, the end of the age? And each of these chapters, Matthew, Luke, and Mark, all divided up. And just to summarize, generally, we will get into this more detail other times. In Mark, the verses all the way through to about verse 24, verse 23 is all to do with the signs of the temple being destroyed and what would lead up to that. And in verse 24, it then says, but in those days following that distress, and then Jesus goes on to describe him coming back again, and that hour is not known by anyone. So he breaks it up into two. He talks, as I say, for the first 23 verses here about the destruction of the temple of Jerusalem, the Romans coming in, the Gentiles treading on the temple and destroying Jerusalem. AD 70, really well known, written in great detail by the Jewish historian Josephus about what happened to the temple and literally how they absolutely destroyed the temple. It said that one of the Roman soldiers got drunk and set fire to the temple and it was utterly destroyed, just as Jesus predicted that it would ahead of time. And we get into all this. Jesus then goes on to talk about the signs of the end of the age and when he would come back, and how the hour is not known even by him or the angels, but only by the Father. So we don't know when it's coming. But I want to address the situation here. The disciples are talking about the temple, and then they remark on its beauty, and Jesus takes the opportunity to teach them. And he wants to warn them, look, things are going to change. There's going to be times coming up soon when you could be very distressed. Now, I think this is very pertinent for all of us right now, as Christians or non-Christians. There are times in our world right now of unparalleled distress for us who've been alive for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, maybe 80 years, although those older would have experienced the war. There's a war in Ukraine right now. Russia's invaded, and the things that we're seeing on television, I seen a footage on television last night where Ukrainians were to be able to get corridors, humanitarian corridors to get out. And I'll never forget, probably to my dying day, seeing a photograph of a child that was dead on the ground with their clothing on, because he was to get out. Even thinking about it is already heartbreaking. And we are praying for that situation. But there's also threats of more wars and drawing in the West, and about nuclear weapons, and is putting unhinged and what's really going to happen here, and will NATO have to get drawn in at some point? And if they supply Poland with other aircraft, will that draw them in, and that draws NATO in? And who knows what's going to happen? So there is possibility right now that you feel anxious or fearful or worried about the future. And I do honestly believe that as Jesus talked to his followers here, there was going to be events like that. And Jesus does specifically talk about wars and rumors of wars. So this is very pertinent right now. And Jesus said, look, everyone must keep watch. There's something you must do in reference to what's about to come. So let's just look at that for a moment. In verse 5, I want to draw out the specific things that Jesus tells his followers how to deal with what's to come. And I think they're all very relevant for us. Verse 5, Jesus said to them, watch out that no one deceives you. People will come and say this and say that, but don't be deceived. Watch out. Watch out for deception. Watch out for those who talk about things that are not based in reality and are not in line with what Jesus said and what the scriptures say. So watch out. Verse 7 then talks about when you hear of wars and rumors of wars. That is true for us right now. There is no doubt. Do not be alarmed. Why? Such things must happen, but the end still not to come. So the wars and rumors of wars weren't the sign that the end was coming. They're just birth pains. So don't be getting alarmed, regardless of what you hear about nuclear weapons and wars, that's the sign of the end. We don't know. It's a sign of birth pains that Jesus talked about here, but it says wars and rumors of wars, kingdoms against kingdoms, nations against nations. Verse 8, don't be alarmed. So he warns them, don't be alarmed. Verse 9, it says, you must be on your guard, and it also repeats this in verse 23. So be on your guard. Be on your guard. Make sure you're on your guard. Watch out. Look at what's happening and be on your guard. In verse 11, it says, whenever you're arrested and brought to trial, do not worry. So watch out and do not worry about what you're going to say. Why? Because the words will be given you. I will help you. Do not worry. Verse 18, it says, pray that this will not take place in winter. He talks about the stress and wars and fighting. He says, look, pray that it doesn't happen in winter. So pray about whatever's going on. So be prayerful as well. And we'll look at all these just collectively in a moment. Verse 21, at that time, if anyone says to you, look, here's the Christ, or look, there he is, do not believe it, for they must come. So, in other words, don't believe what you're being told. You know, if people say Jesus is coming, this is going to happen, this is going to be the sign. Look, it'll be obvious. When I come back, you'll know it's me. You don't worry that you won't know. Everyone will know when I come back. And verse 35 then, as I say, verse 23 there talked about be on your guard. Why? I have told you everything ahead of time. Verse 35, and I guess it's all about the day or hour that all these things will happen. It says, therefore, keep watch. You do not know when the owner of the house will come back, whether in the evening or at midnight, when the rooster crows or at dawn. If he comes suddenly, do not let him find you sleeping. So be awake, be alert. And what I say to you, verse 37, I say to everyone, watch. Jesus is wanting his followers to watch. Be on your guard. Don't worry. Don't be alarmed. Now, how can they do that, given what's all about to happen? We have to appreciate the situation these people are going to be in. At the time when the Romans are going to come in, it's probably more distress than all of us are experiencing right now, unless, of course, you're in Ukraine, in which case I am genuinely praying for you right now. But this is distressful for these people. Now, how can they not worry? Well, verse 23, it says, be on your guard. I have told you everything ahead of time. I've told you this is going to happen. There's going to be distress. There's going to be wars. People are going to fight. The love of most will grow cold. The scriptures warn us about what is going to happen, so we're not surprised. Our eyes are fixed on Jesus, and we are ready for his return. And that's the key. Jesus wants his followers here. There's a bit of a theme. He wants them to be prepared. They need to act like he's coming back again when he leaves. They need to act like they're actually waiting on him coming back. And what would that look like in practice? Because now we're many years later. How do we then deal with that now that we're way down the line, if you like? Well, for them and for us, it's the same. We're seeking the things of God first, not the things of the world, as we wait on Jesus coming back again. Practically, we're reading the word daily. You know, we seek to help others because we know what's coming. We know what lies ahead. We know this life is short, regardless of what happens. We know our time is short, so we seek to help others in practical, helpful ways as we help refugees and so on at the moment, but also, most importantly, spiritually. That's the most important thing, is that we help people have a relationship with God and have their sins washed away. There is the most important thing. We seek to help others. And another thing we do then that Jesus, I think, wanted to warn his followers against was don't catastrophize about what's going on. Don't let it overwhelm you. Don't let it shock and surprise you. Be prepared for it. Don't be alarmed. Seek me first. Pray. Don't let it get the better of you. We know what that feels like right now if you're watching the news. It can get the better of you right now, whether you're a Christian or not. And the greatest danger for them that he spelt out later on here was that they would stop keeping watch. They would get complacent. The lamp would go out. They would stop watching for him. They get depressed and catastrophized about wars and get discouraged about what was going on, see destruction, see the violence, see the despair, the anguish, grief, and they would get complacent and lose hope and stop keeping watch. I know what this is like. I feel like thinking about this for myself, I realize it's so easy to take my eyes off the reality of the world, that it's short-lived, we're a mist, Jesus coming back. He's told us what things are going to happen. It's not surprising the way people live. It's not surprising that Putin invades Russia and we see all this destruction. It's not utterly shocking. As horrible as it is, it's not that surprising. So we can find ourselves getting caught up in the world. We think about the things of the world more than the things of the spiritual realm, of the kingdom, of what Jesus has told us is going to happen, about helping other people to make it. These are the big, lofty things that we should think about. And I really do pray we don't get caught up with the things of the world. We have to pay heed to Jesus' words here. Everyone must keep watch. And it will help us to deal with the situations we deal with right now. We're not in the world, but not of the world. But that said, we still pray for what's going on in the world. We still care about what's going on. So that's just some thoughts from Jesus today to his followers that I think are really applicable to us today. Everyone must keep watch. And we need to think about, what does that mean for us to be keeping watch? What would that mean we'll do? If that's our priority, we don't let ourselves become too distressed and alarmed by what we see and hear in the world right now, but whilst we still really care for all of humanity. If this helped us today, please hit the like button. Please share it on. Please subscribe to That Bible Guy if you haven't already. And let's get his word out there.